I'm fired up to talk about the cost of succeeding in life and how what that cost is like. It's a pertinent week. I think I may have sent you that message. How we were, the first part of the week I was at the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons meeting in New Orleans, and speaking of the price of success, I was flying home after turning over the the gavel of being president of the American Association of Hip and Knee Surgeons. We turned it over at that meeting, and I turned it over to Antonia Chen, who's the chair at UT Southwestern, and got on a plane, headed back for Indianapolis. And I had a full day of surgery and seeing patients yesterday. So this was Wednesday night. So I had a full day of work Thursday starting at 7 a.m. Was supposed to land at 11 o'clock p.m. And the pilots come on and say, well, that we can't land in Indiana. The fog is too dense. So we're going to Louisville. And most people who don't live in our part of the world call it Louisville, but we say it Louisville because that's
Louisville.
what they call it, Louisville. Anyway, so we land in Louisville, Kentucky, and at 11 o'clock instead of in my home area. So now I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I can't reschedule all those surgeries. Those patients have blocked their time and their life. So I rented a car one way and drove from Louisville and got my bed about 1:30 in the morning. And yeah, so that's the price of success right there, right? Sleep deprivation at times when you have to. Don't want to do it
Yeah.
all the time, but
Yeah, we talk
physical.
about that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's pretty common. People talk about the work-life balance, getting 8 hours of sleep, and all the nice thing. Those are popular things, nice popular things to talk about, and they sound nice, but it's not reality. I don't think, and I think that's where I think it's important at that point to where what I talk about a lot, and I think a lot of people are talking about it too, but it's being in alignment with who you are and working on things that you love to do. And
Yeah.
Steve Jobs talked about that. You and I have talked about it because if you're in a job or some sort of something that you're not in love with or passionate about, at least if you
Yeah.
think about like the late planes and the traffic and all that stuff, if you don't love it at your core, then it becomes a grind, and then life really becomes difficult.
Yeah, I would agree. And you know what's interesting to add to exactly what you said. So I worked I worked all day yesterday, did my 5 surgeries, did my clinic in the afternoon, and then had a 3.5 hour conference call that evening. And what was interesting is, and you and I've talked about that, that that day being on 4 hours sleep and grinding it out from 7 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, I actually got a second wind and worked till 1 in the morning again, right? Because I just was energized. There was a lot of good discussion, a lot of innovative things we were talking about on the Zoom call. And so I got recharged. I got a second wind, which is so interesting. And I don't think, I don't think I recognized it till later on what that was. And I could have gone in bed, but probably my mind would have been racing and I probably would have been tossing and turning. So instead I turned it into productive energy. But it
Yeah,
just
and because
happened to be late.
Yeah, and it's because you're working on something that fuels you, and that's really important because if you're not, and I think a lot of people are just chasing money, and at that point,
Yeah.
if you're not in love with the original reason you started making the money, then I mean, you might continue to make money, and this happens a lot. I think with people at middle age, like our age, 50s or
Yeah.
whatever, you reach this point where you have money. And I think it was Jim Carrey. He was like, my wish is that everybody in the world gets all the riches and everything that they're ever wishing for, so they realize that that's not the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly not the material wishes. It's funny you're hitting on something that I've been talking, and I don't know why, if it's something in the world right now, I don't know. But I've been talking a lot about this, Dennis, recently, which is um that aspect of chasing your passion, not your not money. I was during my 2 hours I was driving home. I don't know if you ever heard the Founders podcast where they go through different founders and leaders, and they were talking about Steve Jobs, and his his wife had written a book on him at the end, and I haven't read those books, but I am interested in Steve Jobs as an innovative founder and entrepreneur and leader. And one of the things that she said about him, and he has said before, is it wasn't money that drove him. He
Right.
was driven to change the world, but not really the monetary aspect. Never really. Now, it turns out he was very, very wealthy, but obviously, right? But it wasn't what drove him. And I think you're right. If it's money that's driving you, you're not going to get those second wins, right? And I was at Antonia Chen, who took over for me for being office president. She's she her big initiative is wellness and preventing burnout for hip and knee surgeons.
Right.
And we've talked a lot about that recently, ironically, right? And so she announced it. That was there has a task force, and they're going to do all these things. And the irony is, I sat there, and this is not to discount it, but I work harder than almost anyone I know, and I don't feel burnout. I
Yeah.
mean, but right. So I think sometimes maybe people should say, well, maybe I'm not passionate about this. And that's okay. Right. I mean, then you need to employ all those burnout technique, anti-burnout techniques, and make sure you take so much time out of your day to do something. But I think if you love what you do, I don't know, I feel energized and excited all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, right.
Yeah, and you're doing it for yourself. And then I think that I also think that you're reasonably healthy. I think that it's important to stay healthy and be able to take on the big loads like that.
That's fair.
You surround yourself with great people. But I think I do think that there's a passion. Like I know you have, you truly love, doing surgery. You truly love finding new ways to help people improve their physical lives, their beings, and uh, and because I talk to a lot of people, just as you do. We both talk to lots of people, and there are a lot of people who aren't passionate about what you're doing. And then, I mean, like this is what we're talking about: the passion, the vision. Steve Jobs talked about like the vision pulls you. You don't have to push. Life have to be
Yeah,
so hard. And I think what happened is also um, with the pace of life didn't used to be this fast either. I
that's
think
true.
yeah,
That's
and
true.
so there are some even if you do love it, there's other factors that
That's a
factor in.
great point.
Like, do you have a healthy relationship? Like, you and you know this, so you've been through divorce. I mean, if you don't
Yeah.
unhealthy romantic relationships, marriage, whatever you wanna call it, uh, those could tear you down, right?
No, you're right. You're right. And the topic of today is the cost of success, and you're right because I have been through a divorce, and there was a time in my life where I wasn't probably as balanced as I should have been. I was also younger and I think I would suffice it to say less intelligent, or I didn't have as much EQ back then. But yes, I think, and there were times when I wasn't as physically healthy. You're right, Dennis. That's a really good point. I didn't eat as well, and and I didn't surround myself with as good people. Something you just mentioned, I think that's really important in preventing burnout and staying driven is surrounding yourself with good people. And I think that can provide energy and balance and allow you to take on a much bigger workload as well. Do you agree? I mean, that's, you mentioned that.
Yeah, not only that, but surrounding yourself with toxic people will tear you down. Not just your wife,
Hey,
right? Not just a bad relationship, but any toxic people. And I've gone through. I think some of this comes with age. I
I
think,
think so too. I think so
yeah,
too.
like in the last like 3 or 4 years, I've really cut a lot of people out of my life aggressively. Anybody who was really, it comes down to like, we go back to the vision again. This is my
Yeah.
vision. And what am I doing now? Is it getting me to my
Yep.
vision? If it is, keep going there. But that also includes not just like the tasks or the actions that you're taking, but who are you surrounded with, right?
Oh, I
And
think that's right.
the foods
I
you
think.
eat, like I want to make $100 million. All right, that's great. So, everybody write that down if that's your goal. I'm not like that's an umbrella goal. If you're making 50 grand a year right now, you're not probably qualified or even know how to do that. So you have to start working slowly on that. But it's not just what do you do, what do you know, but who are you surrounding yourself with, and how are you taking care of your body to help get you to those big umbrella goals.
That's a great point you bring up about removing toxic people from your life. So this was the first year, and I'd look this isn't a particular, but it's an example. So for 20 years in a row, the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons is the largest orthopedic meeting in the world. There's usually anywhere from 20 to 30,000 people there. Usually eight to I don't know, 8 to 10,000 orthopedic surgeons. And there's these two sort of elite groups that I was fortunate enough to be part of based on research years ago called the Hip and Knee Societies. And they have their dinner events and meetings that are there. And right now, in our world, related to me personally, their leadership, some of them are pretty toxic right now towards me. And that's okay. So for the first time in 20 years, I left the meeting without staying the entire week and came home and interacted with my patients. And look what energy it brought me. Right. I mean, I've been productive. We're having a great conversation about being successful and what it takes and trying to sustain it. I did a day of surgery. I did surgery. I saw patients. I saw my family. I slept in my own bed. Removing staying away from those toxic individuals is probably, and it's the first time I've heard anyone say that. It's probably just as important as surrounding yourself with good people and people who are aligned with your goals. I think it's very great. That's a great perspective, Tess.
Yeah, and it comes in every area of your life. It's not just professional people. Like if you say that, we automatically think friends or professional family, but it could be friends or it could be family. You
Oh
know,
yeah, sure. Oh,
talk family. Yeah, remove them
absolutely.
aggressively. And then there's something I like I that I latched onto. This was like 10 years ago. I realized this. Do you know the principle of Feng Shui?
Yes, I mean, not an expert in it, but I know of it. Of course, yes.
Right, and so when for those that are listening, like, some people think of feng shui as, like, you wanna position your furniture in your house a certain way to allow certain energies to flow effortlessly in and out of your house. Like, you don't wanna block doorways with furniture and stuff because that blocks, like, flow of energy or money or whatever. Like, you can take it in a lot of different directions. However, like I took this and I applied it to my life one. I was thinking about it this way. At night, and this was like 10 years ago, in my old life with the old person. But I had my water, I had a lamp. My night table wasn't so big, and I had my water. I always had my water. It was on the other side of the lamp. And every night I would reach for it and something would fall off and it was pissing me off. And I did that for like a couple of years. And I realized
Yeah.
I could move the lamp over like 6 inches, and then I put the water there. It took me
Yep.
like 2 years to figure this out. I slept better. I was able to just, like,
Great.
right, grab. So the point of that is set your life up for success with the least amount of friction, and I think that so many of us have so much friction in our lives that keeps us from getting where we wanna go. Everybody talks about adding new solutions to fix all these things in your life, but the solution is always to remove the obstacles that are
That's
keeping.
true. And remove the friction best you can, right? I mean, you can never probably remove it all, but your point I think is valid. And my wife and I've been discussing this recently about as we get older and families go through transitions, your family alignment is also important too, just because you're in some respect blood or it's sometimes not blood related to them. Does it mean that you should be in a toxic relationship or there should be toxic behavior? No, yeah. And the way I look at it is I'm not being arrogant. I'm not saying my way is the right way. I'm just saying we're not in alignment. So if this is the way you want to approach your life, that's great. You should go do it. That's not the way I want to approach my life in that terms of that interaction. I'm going to go over here and interact with these people who do, right? I think it's about getting alignment in your life, personally, professionally, and otherwise. I love the, I love the concept of feng shui. So where I'm right now I'm in my home office, and I think I've showed you this before, but that's the picture of the of Mayo Clinic's early operating room. So I sit that there. There was an artist. It's funny. There's an artist. There's you can actually see he painted my face in there. It was very interesting. So it's an old 1800s picture, and my he did a black and white. Funny. It's so funny. But I put that in here, and my desk faces that. I turn it around because it's better lighting. But I also have the implants that I've designed over the years. Friends and colleagues have made put like nice pictures of those implants once we've designed them and they're out in the market. And I have those around me too, because I feel like, to your point of feng shui, surrounding myself with that sort of ethos helps get in a better workspace, right? Creativity, future designs, whatever. And I think that's important, right? And I couldn't agree with you more. I think it
Yeah,
matters.
and I don't I think people totally miss that, the energy, but I think we notice the things that are keeping us unhappy or sad or angry or whatever, like watching the news all the time. Like, when you do that,
Oh yeah.
especially
I don't.
yeah, with the politics or anything, I mean, this is like so now what we're getting into is, like, emotional intelligence. Is like, "Is what I'm doing making me angry? Then stop doing that." Right? You can redirect
Yeah.
what you're doing and who you're thinking and everything, but like most people, especially now with the politics and the marketing, I do marketing for a living. Like I study marketing, I do it with you.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
like I study it. And the reason that it's politics is everywhere is because it's an emotional topic. And they've
Yeah.
marketing and the media has divided everybody because they know it's an emotional topic. If it was emotional to talk about coffee cups and they could sell billions of dollars
Yeah.
in dollars, they would talk
They
about
would do it.
yeah, that's what they do. So we know there's very few people on either side of the war right now that are like, "Oh, I'm gonna look at the other side and get an objective point of view this morning." Nobody's doing that, right? So what we do is we turn on a channel that validates our point of view and
Yeah.
increases our anger and sadness and insecurity and fear. And then you carry that into your relationships, into your work, and it drains
Oh,
you.
totally. Totally, totally agree. It's an interesting point. We're talking about success here and, the cost of it. We're segueing into also how to increase that. But I
Yeah.
don't, to your point, the only place I get my news is just my Wall Street Journal app because it seems to be the most, it's sort of right down the middle and even it has its bias too. But you can't, for me, I can't turn on CNN or Fox, either one, because they're so polarizing that I don't want to watch either one of them. And so I'm just trying to find some facts, and even that's hard to get. And I don't spend much time on it every day. At least I flip it on, cover world events, make sure I find out if there's bombs going off, which there are, right? So I just find out what's going on, and then that's about it. Then I'm done with it, right? I'm moving on to what I can control in my life because obviously can't control that. And I think that people get consumed by that, and it's a detractor from their own success, both personally and professionally. It's that it's that I think the news is a toxic thing that most people should remove from their life. Do you agree?
I've been saying this for so long. I'm so happy that we get to talk about it. It's so funny how these things oh, you never know which way.
Yeah.
You don't even have to talk about it. Look, the whole problem with everything, and this is everything, and I used to do these speeches before the world shut down. I used to do more motivational speaking and stuff, and I love these topics. And the problem isn't necessarily like CNN or Fox News, alcohol, sugar, all these
Yeah.
things, McDonald's, Budweiser. The problem isn't, or even cigarette, like all these things aren't necessarily the problem. Excess is the problem.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Anything
Yeah.
anything in excess is the problem. Like we used to, if you take back everything I just mentioned, you know, uh, 200 years ago, Native Americans would have these peace ceremonies and dance around the fire, and they would smoke a
Yeah.
tobacco pipe and pass it around, and then next week they have another one, and then that was it. Now you buy packs of cigarettes with poison and smoke 2 of those a day. Don't smoke, but still, like that's how all this evolved. And the same thing with McDonald's. We used to go in the '70s and '80s and have a Egg McMuffin once a month, and it was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is good." And then the rest of the month, you eat food.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Right.
real food. So excess is really the problem with everything, including the news. So if you turn it on, they know how to hook you. Short form video is actually the biggest problem in the world right now for focus and for increasing your cortisol levels. And it affects your output and your jobs, your relationships, and your health.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And we create short form. That's what we're doing right now. We're
Yeah.
having video. But
We're
all of that
we're
massive,
contributing to the problem.
yeah, we're part of the problem. But that's the problem is like it's overconsumption, everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. Someone was, we were just when I get together with, orthopedic surgeons around the world, it's a chance to reconnect a little bit in person. And someone, a younger surgeon, had said to me, we were in the speaker ready room, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I noticed all that you're doing on social media." And he said, he said, "I just want to," he goes, "I can't believe how you're getting it done." I said, "Well, I have a team that helps me." I said, "If you'll look at it, you'll see it. His name's Dennis Berry. He helps me do all this stuff." I said, I said, "But it's not like I don't generate the content, and it's not like, we spent months." I said, "Dennis, I spent months together ahead of time learning and understanding." And I said, "I dumped 10 years because he did it. Just so you know, this is funny. He did an AI, he did an AI check on one of my Substack articles, and he said it passed." I go, "What do you mean it passed?" He goes, "It's not AI written." And I was like, I said, "Listen," I said, "I had Evan, our research director, give Dennis, he downloaded 10 years of
200.
my, of right, 200 peer reviewed publications that I'd written." So I said, "We can use technology to help us, but," I said, "I will tell you right now that and I said, and Dennis and I talk on almost a daily basis. So I mean, even though he helps me generate the content, the content is my content, and it's my writing, right? That's the beauty of it." So I think, when we were talking, he said, "Well, why did you start getting into this?" And this is going to get back to the short form. I said, "Well, I, as a teacher and an educator and a scientific surgeon, I've always one of my passions is disseminating the knowledge that we learn in hip and knee replacement orthopedics out to the world." And I said, what I realized very quickly about 18 months ago is if I didn't get involved in the new way people are learning, it was going to pass it was going to pass me by. And whenever you're an educator and a researcher, your goal is not, if you gain more information through a research paper or you study something and you have it, what good does it do if I keep it here? You got to send it out to people so that they take better care of their patients. And I told him I realized that whether I like it or not, LinkedIn, Substack, you know, YouTube, these new mediums are there, and that's how people are getting their information. So I can either sit there and say, "Well, I don't like the way the world's going," and be a curmudgeon about it, which I could, but I said I need to lean into it because there's a whole generation of people younger than me that's how they consume information. And if they can take that information and take better care of their patients, then I need to do it. So you're right, Dennis. And I think it's this new short form video is certainly something, but I guess I would put it back to you, even though it can be destructive, can it be harnessed to do well for society and to make people more successful if done the right way? What do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely. Yeah, no, sure. And there is tons of it that is being done the right way. And we're going to be doing a lot of it the right way. What I'm talking about is mostly the networks themselves. So Facebook,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The people who are doing it, yeah, yeah,
YouTube, they know. I mean, like this was well documented 20 years ago. They know that when you get a notification, it trips off the dopamine. And we're like dopamine dogs
yeah,
looking
yeah,
looking for more dopamine all day. And so that's really the problem. And what we're talking about, and hopefully the people that are watching us, is that look, I don't claim to be any type of guru or like uh God or anything like that, but we have an awareness of what we're talking about right now. I know when I turn on Instagram reels, I'm looking for content. I have other clients, like we do work where I need to look at social media. So I know I can feel myself when I get pulled in and I'm like, I have to stop. Now, but when you take an 18-year-old kid or a 25-year-old angry political person and or a 30-year-old or whoever, if you're taking these
Yeah.
people who don't have the awareness or the emotional capability to pull their head out of their app, then
Yo, I
that's
totally agree.
that's where it becomes a problem. But in terms of us making responsible content to help people improve their lives, we need it. I mean, that's part of the good that's happening. I think a lot of the bad is you're taking, when you see all these memes and these videos that are drawing division
Yeah,
lines
yeah, yeah.
in
Yeah.
politics, do you know who's making those videos? It's the
Yeah.
marketing teams for the political
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
That's who's doing that. And so that's why the world's so divided. It's designed like when you look at a YouTube thumbnail, when you're on a
Yeah,
YouTube channel and you see a thumbnail, which is the picture on the top of the video, that's designed to pull you in. The opening line of the video is a hook that's designed to pull you in. And now they have it's just one after the other. So you can stay stuck. That's how,
yeah,
4 hours later, you're like, why is my life passing by? And I feel like I got punched in the side of the head and I got nothing done to build my dreams today. That's the problem.
yeah, yeah. No, I I totally agree, Dennis. I think it's been fascinating. I was on my when I what I can't figure out is I pull on my Substack app on my phone and I'm looking, and the first thing that shows up, it keeps showing the um the State of the Union speech. And I'm like, why are we still talking about that? And it's all about fact checking or whatever. I'm like, are we done with that? That was like it's like a week or two ago. Why are we even still but I'm noticing though that there's definitely a drive that there's still this even you pivot to an exciting new media like Substack and you're like, hey, this is going to be great. It We're not the only ones that see it's a good new media. The people that create division also see it's a good new media because that's where we went, right? They're like, oh, this is a cool place to do more of the
Yeah.
same stuff, right?
Yeah.
More of the
That you're
same
still
divisive content.
And you're seeing it because the algorithms are designed. If that's popular, they're gonna keep putting it in front of you, and if it's
Yeah,
emotional or negative, you're gonna keep seeing it,
yeah. It's
over and
annoying.
over.
I don't even click on it. It's annoying, but it keeps showing up. So people must be clicking on it, right?
Right,
I mean,
and
it
so
must be working.
so the topic of our show today, or of our discussion today is, like, the cost of success. How does this affect you? Do you find that it affects you, all this negativity, I mean, what I think our original intent of our conversation was, success comes at a price, and I think people miss that. That people think, "Oh, well, that person got lucky," or they see the overnight success story, but the overnight success story took 10 or 20 years of broken marriage, health problems, bankruptcy. Like it
Yeah.
takes 20-hour days, like all those things that it takes to really become successful, and then doing all these things on the back end makes it cost even more. That's what I think the original intent of our conversation was gonna be.
Yeah, I like how you brought us back out of we got sideways going on in the social media pathway. I know you're right. Yeah, no, I think we talked about this before, and we'll continue to talk about it again. There is there is definitely a cost for succeeding in life at the highest level, and it's not for everybody. I mean, I think the first thing you got to do is decide what your goals are, and like you said earlier, if your goal is to make $1 million or a year, set that as your goal and just make sure you're capable of hitting it, but there will be a cost to that, and make sure you're willing to pay that price, right? That's the main thing. And I think part of life's journey is sometimes you don't realize the price that you're going to pay. So, to be, early on in life, to your point, I was in a relationship that was not a good one, and I probably didn't devote the amount of time I needed to it. I was too busy trying to excel and work and do research and do surgeries and whatnot. But you learn through life, and you learn that um, you got to define what that success is and what price you're willing to pay. And you got to communicate a lot. That's the other thing. Just learn over time, communicate to those people around you. I think part of, I mean, for me, I think the cost that the price I pay the most for success probably now, because success is time consuming, is, is not having enough time to do other things that I should be doing, probably health related, exercising enough. That's usually the cost. I think that's usually the biggest cost that I pay for it. I've gotten better over life, over my 53 years of maintaining good relationships. I spend that time, but there's only so much time in the day, right? So, yeah, I mean, you got to you got to invest the time in your relationships. You got to invest the time to do the work to be successful. What do you, in your perspective, what are the costs that you've paid to be successful in your life?
Yeah. A lot of the same things. Early on, I think some people know my story, but I've been sober 23 years. It's a big part of my story. Nobody has to go down that that road. It's not a good idea. But but I was
But
able to turn.
you're not alone, Dan. I mean, everybody knows 1, 2, 10 people who've had a journey like yours. It's a difficult journey. I mean, it's a difficult journey. And kudos to you for being sober 23 years. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. It took a lot. It's a lot easier than it used to be. I think
Yeah.
early on, it's really challenging, and that's why most people fail. Is because we have a saying in recovery world is that you only have to change one thing, and that's everything. You have to change everything in your life because everything you're doing got you there. So we have to, when you get sober or stop doing any, sober is like it really means like, emotionally, uh,
Yeah.
so, right? And so,
Yeah.
sober can mean, stop eating sugar, watching porn, binge watching, doom scrolling. Like all these things are keeping you distracted. And the drugs and alcohol and all those other things aren't the problem. It's my thinking. So we have to straighten the thinking out. And, uh, you know, as I started growing, the first couple of years were challenging because I, I had to learn how to live, like as a
Yeah.
emotionally mature adult, take care of my responsibilities and manage my relationships and learn how to
Yeah.
communicate, things like that. Just being a full adult, I didn't learn early on, so I didn't learn till my 30s, and and then as I started to do things, I started businesses and started growing and stuff over the years. I lost friends. Because
Mm.
I was growing and then they weren't. I lost relationships. I'd lost a lot, but I also gained a lot. So you have to think. This
Wow.
is why, when we started talking a half hour ago, it was like always, and you said it a few minutes ago. You have to know your goal. You have to define what that is, and then you have to start
Yeah.
working. And always think like all day long. It's like, what am I doing right now to get me closer to my goal? If I'm watching kittens on Instagram or TikTok, and I want to make $1 million a month, it's not going to happen, right? So you
No,
have to
that's
think,
fair.
yeah, you have to pay attention to what you're doing throughout the day. Is this helping
Is that what's on Instagram is videos of kittens?
kittens
That's
and giraffes? And
oh
now
god.
it's all like AI videos of Donald
Oh
Trump
my god.
and
That all
Biden.
passed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Someone put in the chat, I think is really important that our culture places a premium on getting there, but as they grow older, they recognize on how they get there. And I think that's very insightful. I think that's exactly right. One of the things I've noticed is if I drive to success and I get there with good character, integrity, doing the right thing, for me as a physician, putting the patient at the center of everything rather than my own self-interest. Not only I think is the success higher, ironically, but I also think that it is so much more enjoyable to get there. Right.
you have
I think that's a really we talk a lot about this. And I think you talked about this recently on some of your Substack, which is EQ versus IQ. Right. Having an awareness that the people around you um, are sometimes feeding off of or benefactors of your success, and getting there the right way enables everyone else to enjoy part of that success as well. I think that's critical.
Yeah, and value alignment. And I'm sorry, I can't see because I'm on my phone now. I can't see all the stuff coming in. So if something
Oh
comes
yeah.
in, questions or anything, please let me know.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, value alignment. Like, to go back to what you just said, you become more successful. The truth is this is like, we've kind of lost the focus of what's really important. Like it used to be like we did what we were good at or what we loved or something like that. Money is a byproduct of that. Money, the success came when we were focused on doing something meaningful to us, and then we put focus on that and on family and health, and then the money was extra. The money comes in. And I think we've lost focus of that. Like we put money first and define that as success. But then, there's uh there's memes and stuff around. It's like uh people spend their health to make money, and then they have to spend their
Yeah.
money to get their health. And I
Oh,
think
that's
that we
great.
said that.
No, that is totally that is totally true. I think, we mentioned it earlier about the referencing the Steve Jobs, uh, what his wife commented that he was never motivated by money. And just turns out he ended up having a ton of it, which, but I think I think that is a consistent theme you hear over and over again. But it may be just because we're human, it's hard for people to execute on it. Because there's when people succeed our, in our world, for being academic, physicians, yeah, it's a lot about producing research, having the research recognized. Then you get asked to be, in these elite groups, and then you become, you know, executives in these groups. And it's your point, it sort of feeds your ego. And I think you have to be careful of that because what we see a lot is people are focused on the title. So in the academic world, money is not necessarily the currency. The currency is prestige or
Steve.
acknowledgement, right? That's the currency of academia. Many times, it's not necessarily money. And so, what we'll see, and we know this, we have people in my profession that know that, who have fabricated data, who have uh, taken shortcuts, who have stepped over and on people to get where they're going. You've actually seen them hurt others, and you can tell they're driven. They're driven to achieve the success. They're not driven to move our profession forward in a way and let the success come to them. It's it's a very subtle thing, but I don't know. It's interesting how certain people have the EQ to realize to approach life that way. um, Versus this is where I want to be. I want to be acknowledged by this. So I'm going to do whatever I can to get here. And it's to your point, whether it's money, prestige, whatever, it's about the journey. And I think that's the comment on the thread is it's how you get there. That is, we appreciate more and more. But I think it's also how you choose to get there will ultimately enable your success anyway. I do think there are some very successful people in my profession who I know they're skeletons in their closet. When you get into small world, you start to understand that. And I see their success. Well, one thing I can never figure out is if they look in the mirror, is the cost of their success their own integrity, their own soul? I mean, their own, do they have to know they have less self-worth because they've cheated to get there, right? I mean, that's the part of the journey. Like, I think that's a cost. I wouldn't want that eating at my soul, right? I wouldn't want to be like, yeah, I got to be president of this great organization, but I stepped on, I hurt 100 people to get there. I fabricated data that may have made my profession worse and hurt patients. But it's amazing that everybody's human and you see some humans doing that. I think that's sad.
Well, I think that's a human condition. I think that you are in an elite group of people, and I like how outspoken you are about it because it's not just in the medical industry, but from a marketing standpoint, I can't speak to this. And is that what you said is true? You were calling it prestige, but we call it in marketing status. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
what you want to do when you're creating a marketing campaign is people want some sort of desired outcome in the shortest period of
Yeah.
possible, right? And for as little money, as little cost as possible, right? So you want to give people the desired outcome in a short time for as little money as possible. And the desired outcome is funny. What we're talking about, it's usually status. It's not money.
Yeah,
It's people want to look better
yeah,
in their peer circle. And so if you can make that happen in your marketing campaign, whatever you're selling, your products or services,
yeah,
you want
yeah.
to improve people's status.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It's the same, right? Academia, the highest ranks of academia, they're selling education, they're selling knowledge, they're selling research. But, I hate, and I don't mean to be cynical. It's funny. My mother would probably not love this. She sort of raised me to think if you work hard to do the right thing, the world will treat you right. I just said this the other day to one of my colleagues. She just didn't warn me about how many sharks there were. And I think she probably didn't want to because she didn't want to discourage me. Right. It's like get in the ocean. There'll be some sharks there, but I'm not going to tell him about it at a young age so he doesn't get discouraged. I don't want to beat the passion out of him. Right. And she's gone now, but I can appreciate that. But I think the only way I love academia. I love being an academic surgeon, but it takes the same regulation. It's filled with humans, and humans are inherently flawed, right? And they all have their different ability to control their moral compass. And the reason I know you said you appreciate I'm open about it. The only way to make the world better is to have open and frank conversations about the good and the bad. And I think that's important. Someone someone told me I was talking with Dan Lee, who works for us at Indiana Orthopedic Institute. He's a journalist and a great writer and a very thoughtful individual. He said something to me the other day about institutional cowardice, which is which I told him, I said, you need to write about that. It's a fascinating term. Because these large institutions, when they get really large, they tend to just sway with the political power. So what has frustrated me, and it's a lack of authenticity, is some of these institutions during the last presidency, go back to politics a little bit, they were waving their flags about, X, Y, and Z topic. And as soon as the new president comes in, they're like, we shouldn't talk about that. Because what?
But,
What? I was like, that it's insane. We can't talk about that. I tell you a number of meetings I was just in at the American. We can't talk about that. Like, why? Because of the current climate. I'm like, but you were yapping about it 18 months ago. Like it was it was in your core. I don't know. And so I, I don't know. That's so frustrating to me. Just be authentic. Just like, I don't know why the politics have to tell you who you should and should not be. It's very frustrating. So as you can tell, I don't want anyone, no one's going to really tell me what I can and can't say. And what I would go back to is the truth most of the time, right? The truth. Nothing
and
but
that's
truth.
why you're successful. And I think that's why people are drawn to you also, and why you're in positions of power, or at least, status, the president and stuff, is because of
Well,
that honesty.
yeah, I do. No, I do think that's right. And I think, and I appreciate you saying that. I do think remember, it has its pluses and minuses. There's a lot of people in my profession who do not like me. I'm actually, ironically, as I get older, I'm okay with that. They don't like that I'm so direct, and that when like a classic thing was an organization I represent got excluded from being part of this bigger program. In fact, that meeting's going on right now in New Orleans right now. I'm not there for a reason. And I spoke out about it. I said, that's not fair. We paid thousands of dollars. You want us to pay thousands of dollars and you excluded us from planning it and being a part of it. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? Well, that was never an agreement. It's been that way for like 8 years in a row. Uh, and I spoke out about it. I said, I think that's inappropriate. And so we pulled out. Oh, they got upset. So we we pulled out of it, and they're saying bad things. Now most people, most people were like, "Oh, well, that is what happened." But it's amazing. It's amazing that the human nature. Some people, and being authentic, some people don't like it these days, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
It-
yeah,
I chose to remove those toxic people from my ecosystem, right? And that's okay. I'll stay with people who are authentic and who are okay with hearing the truth, even when it's hard and difficult, right? That's
especially when it's hard and difficult.
yeah, it is.
Especially, yeah. And I think it's important. Like, it's funny, you talk about it from the medical point of view, I talk about it from the marketing point of view, is when you're creating content and people always ask, "Should I do this, this, or this, or this?" And the best thing you can ever be in your life is yourself. And when you're
Yep.
creating content, people are like, "Should I write content like this? Should I do this, this, or this?" And here's the thing, be yourself. And when you're being yourself, not everybody's going to like you, but the right people will love you. And those are the people that matter. Those are the only people that matter. And everybody else can go away. They're not going to be friends. They're not going to be clients. They're not going to
Yeah.
be any part of your life. So why are you trying to please them?
Yeah.
Right. And
I agree.
that's a like a psychological point of view, is like we spend a
Totally
lot of
right.
trying to please people that we don't like or have no impact on our lives. Why do we do that?
Yeah, I know you're exactly right, Dennis. One of the things I've always tried to say is if by me being authentic and me doing the right thing, I only achieve this level of success right here, then I have to be good with that. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you say, well, oh, I want to get to this level of success, you name it, whatever your goals are, but I have to do something that isn't authentic for me. I, my personality, just my own, I will choose not to do that. I'll say, this is where I'm at. Like, if I can only afford a certain house and live a certain quality of life, uh, you know, then that's what it's going to be. But I'm going to be authentic no matter what. It's too important to me and uh, too important to my family, in my opinion. That's just me. But again, other people may be willing to pay a different price for their success. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we talk about. Right. Now, it's okay for them.
Yeah.
That's a price. Being inauthentic is a cost for success that I'm unwilling to pay.
Yeah.
Like,
I,
I mean,
I, I love that. And I think that people are attracted to us because of that. I'm the same way. So, if for those that don't know, like I have a big following on LinkedIn,
you do.
and
It's huge.
I want to tell a little story about that. Years ago, I used to use a lot of videos, and my background is I was a skier, a ski racer, ski party, extreme sports kind of guy, mountain biking, all that stuff. I still have that. It's adrenaline addiction. Like I still
Yeah.
have it. It's
Yeah.
in everything that I do. And so I post videos about that from Red Bull and stuff, and I'm a business marketing guy. Why do I post those types of videos? And the people came along, and if you look at LinkedIn now, everything is very sterile. It's all everybody's posting the same type of content, the same quotes, these big business looking things. And I was like, I guess I have to do that. And I did, and I started doing that. And then for one, it didn't feel authentic to me. And then my growth rate started dropping. And I was
Oh,
like, why
really?
am I doing Yeah, I was like, why am I doing this? And so there are reasons it does work from a
Yeah.
business perspective, like sponsorships and stuff like that. But it wasn't me. And so I've since went back to posting the videos that are me, part of my personality, and I connect with the people who are interested in those types of things and me. And
Yeah.
since then, I'm like happy. I'm like, wow, this is a great video, and this is going to connect with the right person. And that's what I'm focused on, is connecting with the right people who are attracted to me, not because I'm using the same quote as the other million people
Right.
doing the exact same thing,
Right.
but because I'm being me.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I respect you tremendously for being honest about your sobriety and your journey and I think that's one of the reasons we connect well is mutual authenticity, right? And I think that's awesome. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think that social media in particular, you can get caught up with followers but I think to your point, and I feel strongly this way, when I went to the meeting, uh, it struck me. I went to the meeting and, I was lecturing and it was really interesting. There was a room that was packed, standing room only. I bet there was 400 people in the room, maybe the size of the room is it's at the New Orleans Convention Center, probably 400, maybe there was 500. But I kept thinking, okay, I'm giving a lecture on something and at one point I was showing these protocols that we do for same day discharge of hip and ear placement. And everybody took their camera and they took pictures of it. Right. And they were capturing because I was giving that in the moment. But the power of social media is and it goes back to what I was originally saying, if I can educate and provide that learning, you know, much larger scale, that was 500 people in that room at the moment. What you're helping me do, Dennis, is to reach and a lot of the people in that room were from South America, but the benefit of social media is it can go worldwide, right? And it can go faster.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't abuse it, which that's where you see it. But I think what I've always said is, okay, I'm not, I have to look at I don't care about the number of followers. I care about the type of followers.
The
So,
quality.
and you've helped me sort through all that because, people are asking to connect on LinkedIn and whatnot. And I've really sort of honed in on the people I'm trying to reach are other orthopedic surgeons who are interested in what we're studying, what we're researching, and what we're teaching. And that's been helpful. It goes right back to what you were saying. And if that's the only number of followers I ever have, or the number of orthopedic surgeons in the world that are interested in what we're doing, I'm good with that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the level of success that I will say that's great, right? And that we've succeeded. We're moving the needle forward. So I think that's all. I think you're spot on. You've helped me realize that.
Yeah, you're living in alignment. When you're living in alignment with who you are and your value system, which a lot of people can't define. And it took me a while. Like I think when you hear the word values, like what are your values? And people are like, don't steal, don't kill people. These are like
Those are good ones. Yeah.
yeah, write those down. Like, don't do
Yeah.
those things. But at the same time, like we're all a little different. It doesn't mean like what are the 10 commandments. It means what do you value? What do you value in your life? And I value my family. I value my health. There's things that I value in my life. And if I'm living in alignment, and mine might be a little different than yours, but if I'm living in alignment with what I value and I'm pushing towards my goals in alignment with that, I'm already successful. And what happens if you don't quit and you're patient, the money just happens. That's extra, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened to you. I think like you've been working really hard, something you're passionate about. It's clearly what you were meant to be doing in this life, at least for now. And and then you became successful because of that, right? You didn't make the money and then add that stuff in. It's
Oh
part of
God,
who you are.
no. Oh God, no. I mean, talk about pain. We talk about the cost of success. I mean, I remember being at a low point, having to abide by a non-compete, arriving with two young children, a very unhappy wife. We were all born and raised in Indiana, and I was arriving in Connecticut because of a 100-mile non-compete for 2 years. I had to move my family, and everybody was upset. And I burned through all of our savings paying because when I stopped, the group said I owed them money. Turns out that was not true, but I didn't know that back then because I was uneducated and naive about the business of healthcare. And I arrived in Connecticut with less than $1,000 in my bank account with two children. Again, right? And I was like, how did I get here? I have a medical degree. I've been to orthopedic surgery. I did a fellowship at Mayo Clinic, and 2 years later, I don't even have $1,000 to my name, and I have two children, and I've just arrived in a new state. That's a very expensive state to live in. It was not a great, but but it was where I was supposed to be at that time, and that was the cost. That was part of the cost, right? And it is. We all have a price to pay for our own journey and our own success, and that was mine for sure.
Yeah. Well, and what a great story that is. And
Yeah.
people think, oh, you're a surgeon and you just make millions of dollars right away. And
No.
we all have a different path to success, and it's great to hear that we all have our struggles. I sure did too, and
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of people do, and I think a lot of people spend a lot of time to hide that fact when it's actually the best story to tell.
Yeah, it's not a weakness. I think people feel like failure is a weakness. We've talked about that a lot on leadership. So failure is a weakness, but it's not. I think you should fail in life. And if you don't, you're probably not pushing hard enough if you want to be successful. You just got to learn from it and hope. Someone said the other day, you just don't want the failure to be too expensive and too damaging. But you can't be a catastrophic failure, but definitely learning from our failures is part of, I think, a part of growth and leadership, both personally and professionally. I hate to say it, but personally and professionally. You don't want to fail personally, but I certainly have. You and I've talked about this. I'm a much better husband because of a failed first marriage than I was during the first marriage. And I hate to admit it, but it's my own, it's my own flaw for sure.
Yeah, and we're gonna fail again. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just it's part of
Yep.
life, right?
Amen.
It's like how to the extent that we let it affect us is
Yep.
that's what determines our level of success in the future. But maybe we could talk about that next time.
Yep. I think that's great. And Dennis, thanks again. It's always great conversation. Always really energizes me to talk with you about success, leadership, life journey. Yeah, it's been a great hour session. So thank you as always for being part of it, and look
Yeah.
forward to the next one that we do.
Thank you, you too, and thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to us banter for a little while.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hope everybody got at least a little something out of it, even if it's just to know that we're undergoing the same struggles that you all are out there. So thanks for joining in, and until next time, everybody have a
Yeah,
great day.
adios, and I'll talk to you soon.
You got it.